Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Coaching Tips with Ben. This is going to be a really short episode, and I'm only going to get one take at it because I'm going to talk about something that's happening right now. This isn't a training idea or something. I do want to preface this by saying it's not some scientific finding that can help. It's just a quick tip that I use in my own training to deal with a particular training issue that I run into and that some other people might run into. This is one of those circumstances where I don't want you to do it if you have another option, but I know a lot of people run into this same thing at times when they don't really have many options. So what we're going to talk about today is dealing with callus tears in training, at a meet, and just in general. I'm going to have kind of the first reaction to it, what I do in the session or at the meet to deal with it immediately and to try to minimize any performance drop-off, and then I'm going to show you guys what I do immediately after that kind of traumatic time when you have a chance to make some adjustments and make some changes and focus on fixing the issue. So what you might see right there on my right hand, I have a mild tear on my ring finger and one on my pinky. This one looks a lot worse than it feels. This one is the real bugger. It gets me every week whenever I pull with the Texas deadlift bar. I am going to start off and preface this entire thing by saying if you can avoid tearing your hands, that is absolutely ideal. And I think it is something that for the most part is preventable. If you have a really aggressively knurled bar like a Texas deadlift bar or an Oki or something where the knurling is really designed to dig into your hands, it's a little harder to prevent. I personally don't like to use straps in my training. I think that it messes up your pull in the meet. Some people are totally fine with that. That's a debate for a different video. If you want to see how I recommend avoiding callus tears if you're pulling with a regular bar and it is something that you can just fix. I think it's a real grip strength issue. I think it's something that if your grip improves, you tend to tear your hands less, and it's not something to be proud of. Tearing your hands up is either a lack of preparation on your part or something that's maybe a little bit less in your control, like the aggressive knurling. It's one of the reasons why I use my stiffer, less aggressively knurled bar on my second deadlift day for the week. So what I'm going to talk about is if you tear your hand at a meet. If you're in a training environment or something, a lot of guys can just strap up or you can walk away from it and say, well, it's just not going to go today. That's not really an option, at least for me. If I get to a meet and I have my warm-ups or something, or I do something goofy, grab the bar weird and let something slip, if I end up tearing my hand on an attempt, I don't want to say, well, that's just it. And a lot of people, when they get to the bar, they will grab it, and if they've recently torn a callus, if there's something like that, first of all, you want to get rid of any blood because you're not supposed to be bleeding on the bars. That's, just common courtesy as a lifter. But if you grab the bar, a lot of times you'll pull on it and people will tear a callus and then they'll go to their next attempt and they'll try it and they'll start pulling, but they'll baby the callus in between. They'll baby that little injury and say, it just hurts, I need to leave it alone, and then just only stress it during the pull. That is one way of thinking, something that I have found to be super effective and also incredibly self-painful and a little masochistic, is to annoy the crap out of my calluses. I use my thumb and I just dig it into the callus. This is something that, again, I don't recommend for everybody. I don't recommend you do this in training if you have another option, but it's something that I do. What that's going to do is it's going to overstimulate all the nerve endings in there, that once you grab the bar, it makes your hand kind of do this this quick kind of jerk response of just open your hand and let go. And we're trying to minimize that in these intense circumstances where you're at a meet or something and you can't just afford to give up 2 attempts because you tore your callus on your opener. So I take my thumb and I dig it into those, and sometimes I'll bring the other hand over and I will just prod them and keep them from having that pain kind of dissipate, because then as soon as you grab the bar and you yank on it a little bit, it's going to kind of give you that quick shock jerk effect where it's just not used to having that pain. You put the pain on it, your natural response is to open it. If I overstimulate it beforehand, I have a better chance, in my experience, of not being shocked or surprised once I get to the bar. And it has, and I do it in my training. I'm saying I don't recommend it in training if you can use straps or an alternate movement or something, but I'm stubborn and I like to pull with that aggressively knurled bar at least once a week because that's my training competition bar, and I just don't like using straps. I think that mentally I need to not. So this is something that I've kind of adapted for myself, and But hand health and hand care are things that I take very, very seriously in between those training sessions. And right now I just finished my heavy deadlifts for the night, and I'm going to immediately come in. Before I even go back to the rest of my workout, I'm going to take care of this little issue that I have. So first of all, you need to find a sink. I just happen to have one here that I'm in my kitchen. But if you work at a commercial gym or you go any of these situations, you're going to want to clean your hands off really well with warm water. Don't be afraid to get in there. Use soap. You clean them out initially. Dry them off really well. And then I have some hydrogen peroxide here. Whenever I take a gym bag with me, if I know I'm going to be doing any kind of deadlift movements or anything where I'm going to be gripping a barbell, you know, with the intention of hanging on to it, I try to prepare the best that I can. If I'm traveling to another gym or if I'm here, I always have this stuff ready to go. So, cleaned it up pretty well, got anything that's out of there. Keep that. Take some hydrogen peroxide, clean it again. This is the stuff that smarts, this is that stuff that stings a little bit. Wipe away the excess around it. You see it's starting to fizzle up on those openings. And it stings a little bit, but your hand health is more important than a little bit of in-the-moment pain. Now, this is something that I like to do since I deadlift twice a week, and I don't know if I'd recommend it to everybody. Like I said, all of this is kind of one of those emergency situations, and I'm not going to point to some study of 50 people that have done this and seen it work really well. But I take my pocket knife, just like I do 24 hours before every pulling session. Sterilize that. Just make sure I don't want to get any weird germy infections in my hands. And if I have anything that's hanging off of it, I've got a little flap right there, I just go ahead and take that off. And it smarts, especially right now, but I've found that if I try to do this the day after, my hands are just too sore to let me do it. And at least right now I kind of have the adrenaline of the workout. And you're very gentle, you're very careful. In my hand, my grip strength video for powerlifters, which I'll link in the description as kind of the precursor to this. I mean, like I said, you want to avoid callus tears if at all possible. But this is kind of the way I take care of them immediately after. So clean off any of that gunk that you have. Try to smooth them out a little bit, and then immediately get some sort of antibacterial ointment on there. I like Neosporin. And then a Band-Aid on it. You might, well, I'm going to go work out, I might as well just do that after the workout. If you can do this before you go back to your workout, you have the potential to stop it from getting worse. And you also have kind of kick-started that healing process. Because one thing you can't really do is go to your next deadlifting session and have really torn up hands. So these are the Band-Aids I like to use when I'm going back into training. They're plastic strip, they move a lot. I don't lose any mobility in my fingers, but I just covered up those two calluses right there with a little bit of Neosporin. And these Neosporin's going to pull some of the sting out, and it's going to help keep it from getting dirty and infected. And right now when I go back out and finish my workout, I'm going to keep these on, but once I come back in at the end of it, I'm going to change them out and get some fresh Band-Aids on there. For me, I find it to be pretty darn necessary, since I try to pull twice a week, to have my hands heal as quickly as possible. So I've just kind of gotten into the habit of taking care of this immediately. As soon as a problem presents itself, as soon as they start bleeding, as soon as it starts happening. You know, if you have the ability to treat it quickly and you can kickstart that recovery, why wouldn't you? Something else I'm going to recommend for at the end of the night once I'm done. I'm not going to do this right now because it'll make it incredibly difficult to continue the workout. But I have some of this O'Keefe's Working Hands hand cream. It's kind of just a lotion for people, designed for people that work with their hands a lot, and I use this daily. Dry hands crack, dry hands tear way more frequently, and if you are taking care of your calluses, you're sanding them down and shaving them down at least 24 hours before you have a pulling session. If you're, you know, I use an emery board, I use a pocket knife. I recommend something like a men's razor that's a little safer. I've gotten possibly overly comfortable with shaving off my calluses. with a pocket knife, but I sharpen it, make sure the blade's really sharp, and make sure you're super duper careful. Please do not go and cut your finger off and say Ben told you to do it to protect your hands. That's not at all what I'm trying to say. But sand down the calluses, you get an emery board, do something, a pumice stone in the shower, just make sure that there's not big mounds of stuff to get caught on things and pull off during a heavy lift. Make sure that you're keeping your hands moisturized. And I know that we're big, bad powerlifters who are too tough to ever think about something like putting lotion on our hands, but I used to be really proud of my calluses. I used to say, no, I don't want to put lotion on them, it's going to make me worse as a lifter. My hand health has improved tremendously since I've started implementing these, and if you are serious about protecting yourself and actually finishing workouts and performing to the best of your capability and ability, you have to take your hand health seriously, you have to take your mobility and all your recovery work seriously. It's a big part of it, and it's just something that's necessary to continue to improve. Like I said, I am a big proponent of that overstimulation technique. If you absolutely have to finish your pulls and don't have time to come and take care of them, obviously if you are a proponent of strap use, or you can just walk away and be, done enough work to be done with your pulls for the day and let your hands rest, then that is obviously the ideal situation. But in those other situations where you're at a meet or you have to finish your pulls and are not willing to use straps, like my stubborn self, then this is an option to at least keep it from taking too much away from your training. Afterwards, if you are at a commercial gym or even at your own gym, make sure you take care of your bar, clean it off. If you get blood on the bar, wash it off, disinfect it. You don't want that just sitting out there. Other than being absolutely grody, it's also a health hazard. Just be smart with your training and be smart with your recovery. Thank you guys for watching. Sorry if I talk fast and tend to ramble on these kind of things, but like I said, could only really do one take, because after it's done, it's done. And I'm going back out for some bench press. So thank you all for watching. I hope you were aided or assisted or helped or learned something from this. And I will try to get back on track with making these with good informative content. Remember, I'm not the only person who does this. I'm not the only person who has an idea of how to improve your lifting and these little tips and tricks. Make sure that anything you're passionate about, you are pursuing your knowledge and self-improvement in any potential way you can. Broaden your horizons, broaden your viewpoints, and look into all the possible information. If you really care about something, it'll be worth your time. So thank you guys a lot, and I will talk to you very soon.